All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we got to talk. So today we are talking about Amanda Seals' the Jubilee video where she debated 20 confused black conservatives. So the main thing I want to focus on in this video particularly is her first claim, which is where she says it's undeniable that reparations are just and necessary. I believe in that wholeheartedly, and I want to give two examples on why I believe in that so much. One of those examples actually comes from the fact that I'm a business owner, so I know how a lot of business owners think. If I think this way, I'm pretty sure there's white business owners who think this way as well. So once I give that example, you'll understand why reparations are definitely just and necessary. The other thing that I want to cover in this video is how reparations should be handled or how they should be divvied out. Because there's a lot of different people who have different opinions on why reparations shouldn't happen. I can tell you why they should happen and exactly how it should happen, and I'll explain that in this video. So first, let's go ahead and jump into the first reason why I believe reparations should happen. And I'm just going to jump into an example of a game that I grew up playing with my parents, Monopoly. All right. So just imagine I was playing Monopoly with my wife and my two kids. Let's say two of my kids and my wife. So the four of us are sitting down playing Monopoly. All the money's passed out. You start off with, I think it's $1,500 per person, right? Everybody gets the dice. You pick a person to play with. You put them on the go section, and you start rolling and just playing the game. Okay. Now let's assume after the four of us have been playing for 2 hours, because Monopoly can last forever. So let's assume after 2 hours, we told you the person that's watching this, we said, hey, you go ahead and jump into this game. And you're like, okay. So you look at the board and you see all of the properties are spoken for now. So we've bought all the properties. There's hardly any money left in the bank because we have almost all the money amongst the four of us. And we tell you, here's the dice, your turn, you go. The first thing you're going to think is, how am I supposed to win if all of the properties are bought for? They're already bought, right? Almost all of the money is gone. You started with $1,500. Now each of you have, let's say, $2,500, and I have no money. How can I even win? So you take the dice, you roll them, and you roll a six, and you end up landing on my property. So not only did you land on my property, but I have all three of those properties, and all three of those properties now have hotels on them. So it would have been bad if you'd have just landed on the property. It's even worse because I've had time to build those properties and get it to the most expensive value that it could possibly be at. So instead of just paying, let's say, $100, now you're responsible for paying me $500. And you have no money to start with in the first place. How can you possibly win? That is the situation that slaves and black folks were in when slavery ended, and it's the same situation that a lot of us are in right now. Those effects that happened back in the day, those still impact our lives till this day. It still does. There was hundreds of years in which black folks worked for free to help white people become millionaires and billionaires all across the country. All across the country. So when you look at the fact that these white folks were able to build all of this wealth, create banks, leverage their money to partner with other white folks and make other huge companies like Ford and all these other huge companies that are worth billions and billions of dollars. And then you free the black people, you free the slaves, and you say, okay, now go out there and make something of yourself. You're like, and they're looking at each other like, how exactly? They have all the money. They got 400 plus years advantage on us. They've got billions and billions of dollars worth of advantages over us. Every mistake that the black folks make now are compounded because they started with no money and everyone else has tons of money everywhere. So how exactly could they win, right? The second part of that example is when these white folks did build all this wealth and they built all these companies and black folks weren't able to educate themselves and they weren't able to have paying jobs because they were slaves. You look at all these situations where now black folks are actually working and trying to work up the ladder. But every job that they apply for, there's a white person that owns the business. There's a white person that's managing the business. There's white people in all of the supervisor positions. So how exactly does a black person get promoted and begin to do well in that environment? How? And I told you at the beginning of this video, I own businesses, and I can give you an example really close, near and dear to my heart because I live it every day. I've got about 120 something employees. We hire people every single day. I don't, but my staff hire people every day. So if I was doing the hiring, which I used to do quite a bit of hiring, I'm just being honest with you. If I'm doing the hiring and there's a supervisor position that comes up and there's a person off the street whom I never met before in my life, and it looks like they would do that supervisor position very well, I might consider hiring them. But if I have a cousin who I think could do that supervisor position pretty well, I would hire my cousin 10 out of 10 times. Every time I would hire my cousin. If this person off the street whom I never met before could do that job 9 out of 10 on a scale of, let's say on a scale of 10, 10 being just perfect. If the person off the street could do that job at a level of 9 and my cousin could do that job at a level of 7.5 or 8, I would hire my cousin every time and just give my cousin additional training. That is what's going on right now in the world almost everywhere you look. If you look at Fortune 500 companies, the people who are running almost every one of those companies are white people. Almost every single one of them are white people. And it's not because they're smarter. It's not because they have infinite knowledge or anything crazy like that. It's just because of the position that they've been gifted and the position that they've been blessed to be in. So many of those folks might have gotten into a position where they applied for a job and maybe they were a 7.5, but somebody else was an 8.5. They got the job because they either knew the person that was running the company or they got the job because the person that's running the company is more familiar with their type of person, their type of personality, their type of upbringing, their type of background. That kind of thing happens all of the time. Still to this day, it happens. That's part of why things like the Rooney Rule in the NFL gets created. People get upset about that and scream DEI hire and all that kind of crazy stuff. But there's a reason why the Rooney Rule got put into the NFL. And if you're wondering what the Rooney Rule is, that just means whenever a job opening happens in the NFL for a head coaching job, the organization that has the opening must interview at least one black person for that position. And if you're wondering why, it's because almost every owner in the NFL is white. Almost every single one. I think one of them, I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, is not white. He's not black either, but he's not white. I think he may be the only person who is a non-white person that owns an NFL team. So what do these NFL owners look for when they're hiring a head coach? Obviously, they want somebody who's smart and who's a good leader, but they also are looking for a person who they be able to get along with, somebody who's shared a particular background with, somebody who doesn't talk a different type of language than they talk. That's what kept happening over and over. And owners, these owners would have these openings for a head coaching job, and they would see somebody who looks like, I don't know, Brian Flores. Let's give him just for an example. Looks like just a strong black man, and this older white owner has never dealt with this type of demographic before. He's not used to dealing with a strong black man talking to him every single day in his office, taking him out to lunch every day, inviting him over to his house every few weeks. He's not used to that. So when that white owner looks at Brian Flores, I'm gonna pull up a picture of Brian Flores while I'm thinking here. So while there he is right there. So when that old 65, 70-year-old white man is looking at this guy, Brian Flores, he's like, do I want to hire him or would I get along better with somebody like Bill Parcells? And I'll show you a picture of Bill Parcells. So who do you think an old 65, 70-year-old white man would get along with easier? Who do you think they would be more comfortable around? This guy, Bill Parcells, or this guy, Brian Flores? This type of energy is exactly, I don't care if y'all believe it or not, I'm telling you, I've lived it. I've lived it. This kind of energy is what happens in the corporate world every day. So when the people in that video, the Amanda Seales video, Jubilee, when those folks are saying stuff like, I have the same opportunity as other people in this country. I'm a black man, but I've got the same opportunity as any white person in the country. They are, I mean, they have well intent behind what they're saying, and God bless them for it. But I'm telling you, they simply misunderstood and naive, incredibly naive, because anytime someone is hiring for a position, of course, they're looking for someone who's smart and who can fill the position well, but they're also looking for someone that they'll be able to get along with, communicate with, and not feel awkward around. And this type of energy, like this Brian Flores versus Bill Parcells thing, happens in the world of business all day, every day. So whether you're white or black, and let's assume that let's say you're a black person watching this video. If you go in to do an interview for a Fortune 500 company and you're looking to be the CFO of that company, you better understand that whomever is hiring that position, I promise you, I'm not saying probably or maybe, I promise you, they are considering if they will be able to work with you on a day-to-day basis without feeling awkward and feeling concerned about you being too aggressive or being scary. All that kind of stuff goes into play when you hire other managers. I promise you that. I lived it. I know it. Not because I've only owned a business, because I've worked in corporate as well. So I get all of that stuff. Okay. So we talked about the two reasons. One of those was the monopoly example, where it said like all the property was dispersed early in the game. And then black folks are playing this crazy game of catch up. And whenever black folks are playing this crazy game of catch up, we're against such a crazy wall, because every time we want to get up to that next ladder, the people who are in charge up here, who have been in charge since slavery days, they are picking and choosing who they want to work with, who's going to make them more comfortable, who's going to make them not feel awkward about this or that. So those are the two examples on there. Now let's talk about how reparations should be handled. One of the reasons why people push against reparations so tough is because they say, well, why are white people to blame for this? No one's blaming white people. Okay. We're not, like, sometimes things are not about you. And this thing about black folks deserving reparations has nothing to do with the white people of today causing any problems today. It's about giving black folks the opportunity to catch up, giving an opportunity to be on a decently even playing field. That's what it's about. So how should reparations be handled? People consistently say, well, where would the money come from? It would be too expensive to give all these black people hundreds of thousands of dollars. Where would that money come from? Even though the PPP loan was crazy and giving out hundreds of thousands of dollars to businesses all across the country. But anyway, how would that be handled? So the way that I say, I'm just going to not even deal with that situation when it comes to, oh, there's too much money to be spending. There's too much money to pour out to all the black folks. So I say, if it's too much money to spend, if the government could not possibly find a way to find or print more money to give to black people in this situation, I say, why don't you, the government, allow black people to live 10 years without paying taxes on anything except sales taxes? So that means if you open a business right now and you start paying employees, you pay no money on those employees, no taxes on those employees. And I can tell you right now, in the businesses that I own, I pay about I think it's $35,000 a week in payroll taxes. So allow me to keep that $35,000 a week and see what I can do with that money. A lot of people, a lot of white folks, a lot of people who argue against reparations, one of the things I consistently see is everybody just wants a handout. The black folks want a handout. So if that's the case, allowing us to work 10 years with no taxes, if all we want are handouts, then that should not affect you at all, because obviously we just sit at home not create any revenue, not create anything for businesses or anything for our families, and it shouldn't harm you at all because all we want are handouts and we're lazy, right? So if that's the case, you should allow all Black people to choose when they start their 10 years. So if you're 26 years old and you're about to start your own business, once that business gets started, you should be able to tell the government, I want to start my 10-year tax-free period right now. And it goes 10 years from there. Your employee taxes get ignored. Those all get sent right back to you. Your employer taxes, those all get sent right back to you. Every time you go to work at your job, if you look at all the taxes that's taken out of your money, you get all that money right back sent to you. So none of those things get deducted from your check as far as taxes go for 10 years, and it starts whenever you want that time period to start. My time period would have started probably 5 years into the time where I started my first business. And if I was able to keep all of, now keep in mind, all of the employee taxes because I pay myself as an employee. So if I keep all of those, all of my employer taxes because I have to pay taxes on every employee that I pay every single week. If I keep all of those, property taxes that I pay on my home, property taxes that I pay on my rental house, the property taxes that I pay on my rental commercial properties, all of those taxes, I get to keep that. That is the way the reparations should be done because apparently there's no way to find or print more money to pay Black folks reparations. So if that's the case, allow Black people to work tax-free for 10 years. And that's all taxes except sales taxes. So if you go to the store and you buy a candy bar and it's 99 cents, you're still going to pay $1.07 for that because there's sales taxes in there. But every other tax you could think of gets waived. Black folks live tax-free. Let us do that for 10 years and let's see what happens on it. That I believe that Black folks are creative enough. I believe we're savvy enough. I believe we're tough enough to be able to come up with some pretty creative and wonderful things for our families and for our community if we're given this opportunity. And a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of people believe that we're looking for handouts. And if you are one of those people, then I suggest that you stamp this mindset that I have where we live 10 years tax-free because it shouldn't affect you at all, right? We don't contribute to too much anyway, right? And then that's what people be saying. We don't contribute too much. We won't hand out all that stuff. So that's my idea on it. So there's the two reasons, and there's also how we should handle reparations. Those are my thoughts on this. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also share this video because I do want a lot of people to see this. I want a lot of people to talk about this because I've heard reparations being addressed in many different ways. I've never heard anybody talk about the idea of reparations being a mindset of where we, Black people, just get to live tax-free for a certain amount of time. Banking, basically just betting on ourselves, and let's just see what happens with it, right? All right, that's all that I got for y'all today. Thanks for watching the video. I appreciate the support. Take care. God bless. Peace.